This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it turned out to be a $1 million miracle. In 1990, tens of millions of quarters poured out of the Philadelphia Mint. Nothing unusual, right? Just another year, just another coin. Or so they thought, but buried among those ordinary coins was a mistake. A tiny, almost invisible error that would go unnoticed by nearly every collector, every dealer, and every bank teller. For over 3 decades, only a few of them exist. And one of them, found in an old coffee can under a dusty workbench, sold for nearly $1 million. What makes this quarter so rare? Why are collectors calling it the ghost of the minting floor? And how can you tell if the one in your pocket is worth more than a brand new Lamborghini? The year is 1990. The Philadelphia Mint is operating at full speed, striking Washington quarters by the millions. The machines were running hot, the pressure to meet quotas was intense, and human eyes couldn't catch every flaw. The engraved metal tool used to strike the coin's design was mistakenly paired with the wrong hub. Instead of the standard reverse design, it was imprinted with a prototype. An experimental design. One that was never supposed to leave the mint. A Washington quarter with subtle, but critical, differences. An eagle with feather patterns not found on any other coin. A rim that curves slightly off-center. And most shocking of all, the P-Mint mark itself appeared slightly distorted, almost ghost-like, as if the coin were hiding its true identity. But here's the twist: for years, no one noticed. Collectors passed over the 1990 P quarter without a second glance. Dealers tossed them into rolls. Children fed them into vending machines for soda and gum. A retired Navy machinist in Ohio stumbled across a quarter that felt different. He couldn't explain it. The weight felt the same. The color was normal. But something about the coin nagged at him. The eagle looked off. Almost like it had been drawn by a different artist. He held onto it for weeks before finally showing it to a local coin dealer. That dealer called in a specialist. Then another. Within 48 hours, the coin was on a plane to a top grading agency. What they discovered shocked the numismatic world. This isn't just a mint error, the report said. This is a pattern coin, a transitional die design that should never have been released. The coin was placed in a private auction. Only 12 bidders were allowed to enter, and that wasn't even the highest it could go. Experts now believe another specimen in better condition could cross the $1 million mark, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After news of the sale leaked, collectors across the country began tearing through their change. Videos flooded YouTube. Dealers were swamped with calls. Do you have the 1990p? Became the most asked question at coin shows for 6 straight months. One man found another one hidden inside an old coin album he inherited from his father. Another was pulled from a parking meter refund tray in Michigan. Each new discovery sent shockwaves through the community, and yet, most people still have no idea what to look for. That's why you need to hear this next part carefully, because this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. First, check the reverse side, the back of the coin. Look at the eagle. On the rare version, the feather tips appear thinner, and the legs seem slightly elongated compared to a normal 1990p quarter. It's subtle, so subtle that even trained collectors miss it. Now, focus on the mint mark, the small P just to the right of Washington's ponytail. On the $1 million version, the P isn't crisp. It looks faint, almost like it was pressed with a weak strike or partially polished off before minting. Some describe it as frosted. On this ultra-rare version, the rim has a slightly wider edge on the left side than the right. This is due to a misaligned die during the strike, another piece of evidence that this coin was never meant to be released. Weigh it. The standard quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. But these $1 million versions often come in at 5.72 grams or more, just enough to suggest a different planchet or an altered composition, possibly from an experimental batch. And now comes the most haunting part of the story. One of these rare 1990p quarters was spotted at a flea market in Arizona, priced at just 25 cents. A teenager bought it for fun, thinking it looked kinda weird. He posted a photo on a coin forum. Within 12 hours, his inbox had over 200 offers. Last we heard, the coin was authenticated and insured for over $1.10 million. No one knows. The mint has never officially confirmed the number released. Some experts say 3, others say a few dozen. But one thing is clear, they're still being found, that one shining moment. That one coin that changes everything. Not because it's gold, not because it's ancient, but because it slipped through the cracks of history. The cracks of chance that collectors are calling it the greatest modern quarter discovery of our time. Dealers are racing to secure any specimen, even damaged ones, and while millions of 1990p quarters are still floating around in jars, drawers, and gas station tills, only a precious few hold the secret that could unlock $1 million payday. Now you know what to look for if flip your change. Scan every quarter. Look for that ghostly mint mark, the strange eagle, the unbalanced rim. Weigh it if you can, because somewhere out there, maybe even in your own pocket, is a forgotten piece of American minting history. Point one coin. One mistake. $1 million, and this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, waiting to change your life forever. It looked like any other quarter, dull silver, a little worn, the face of George Washington staring back like always. No one gave it a second glance, until one man did, and what he found would shock the entire coin world. The year was 1997. Denver's mint was churning out millions of Washington quarters, and nothing unusual, until something went very, very wrong. Somewhere along the line, deep inside the Denver Mint, a rare minting mistake happened. A misfeed. A strike that wasn't supposed to occur. A layer of history stamped into metal, completely by accident, but the mint never told anyone this flaw. This $1 million mistake slipped through the cracks. For years, it passed from pocket to pocket through vending machines, laundromats, glove boxes. A hidden treasure disguised as ordinary change until one collector spotted it, and his life would never be the same. Most people would have missed it. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't shiny. It looked just like every other 1997 quarter, except for one chilling detail: the edges, they were off, subtly warped, and the weight, it was wrong by just a fraction of a gram. A nearly invisible flaw that only a trained eye would ever catch. He took it to a dealer. The dealer's hands started to shake. "I've never seen anything like this before," he whispered. They waited again, magnified it, studied the strike marks and die alignment, and then, silence. This wasn't just a rare coin. It was one of a kind. A double strike with a misaligned die. A transitional error that shouldn't exist, possibly the only one ever made. Collectors flew in from across the country. Private phone lines rang nonstop. One anonymous bidder dropped six figures without even blinking, but that was just the beginning, because the final bid, $1.1 million. All for a coin most people would have tossed into a toll booth. How could a 1997 quarter, minted in the millions, be worth more than a mansion? It all comes down to one haunting truth: the US Mint is not perfect, and when it makes a mistake, a rare, irreversible, unrepeatable mistake, that coin becomes a piece of history. A once-in-a-lifetime anomaly that can never be recreated. These aren't just coins. They're time capsules, misprinted chapters of American history, frozen in metal, and the 1997 quarter, it might be the holy grail of them all. But here's the twist: this wasn't the only one. After the $1 million sale, collectors started digging. Dealers scoured their backstock. Dozens of people opened drawers, jars, and piggy banks, and a few more surfaced. Not many, maybe two, maybe three more confirmed, but enough to set off a firestorm, because even the lesser ones sold for six figures. And that brings us to right now. You might be holding one. Not right now. In your car, your change dish, your coat pocket from last winter. D for Denver, usually located just to the right of Washington's ponytail. That's the starting point, but here's the detail that changes everything: the strike. These rare coins often show signs of a double strike, a faint echo of the original design slightly off-center. Sometimes it looks like a blur around Washington's nose, or a ghost second profile on the reverse side. Now look at the lettering. If United States of America or quarter dollar appears warped, stretched, or overlapping, you might be holding something incredible. Most quarters have a smooth, even edge, but these errors, they sometimes show a warped or incomplete reading. The tiny ridges you feel along the edge. Flip it. Look at the eagle. Does it seem off-center? Too high or low? Does the tail touch the rim while the head floats oddly inside? These details may sound small, but to the right collector, they scream rarity. And then, the weight. A standard quarter weighs 5.67 grams, but these errors, they sometimes weigh slightly less, or slightly more. Even a difference of 0.1 grams can send up red flags for experienced collectors. But here's what most people get wrong: they clean the coin. Never, ever clean a coin you suspect might be rare. Even rubbing it with a cloth can erase microscopic details that are crucial to identifying mint errors. Dealers and grading experts want coins raw, untouched, even if they're dirty. First, isolate it, put it in a soft cloth or coin flip. Do not handle it by the face, only by the edges. Then, take it to a reputable coin dealer, get it weighed, get it magnified, and if it shows the signs, send it to PCGS or NGC for official grading, because here's the truth: your life could change forever. One man found his in an old Folgers Can his dad left behind another found one mixed in with foreign coins at a flea market. A third was tipped off by his 8-year-old grandson. These stories sound unbelievable until they're yours, and collectors are still hunting. Every coin show, every estate sale, every pocketful of change from a gas station, someone is chasing that $1 million coin, and now, you know the secret. The 1997 D quarter is hiding in plain sight. One small detail, one overlooked flaw, is all it takes. So check your change, dig through your drawers, and if you find that subtle, mysterious strike, the one with warped lettering or a doubled edge, you just might be holding history. You just might be holding over $1 million, because this exact quarter could be sitting in your pocket right now. It's a 1998 Washington quarter. A coin so common, so ordinary, that millions of people tossed it aside without a second thought, but hidden in that sea of silver was a single minting mistake. A tiny flaw that transformed a 25-cent coin into a jaw-dropping $1.20 million treasure. He almost gave it away for free. Stick with me, because what you're about to hear is not just a coin story. It's a story about fate, about luck hiding in plain sight, and about one ordinary American's life-changing discovery, because this exact quarter could be sitting in your pocket right now. Let's rewind. It was 1998. The Clinton era. Google had just launched, and the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was pumping out millions of Washington quarters, business as usual. But then, something happened. Somewhere in the minting floor, under the deafening sound of presses and conveyors, a die shift occurred, just barely. Just enough to go unnoticed by the eye, but enough to make history. The Philadelphia Mint marked these coins with a peak, crisp and clean, but on a small batch. That P was struck off-center. Collectors call it a misaligned mint mark, but this was more than just off-center, because on this rare variant, the P was hovering dangerously close to the inner rim, a hairline from being clipped. The side with George Washington had an eerie doubling effect, almost like a ghostly echo, an unintended shadow of Washington's profile. And then there was the reverse, the eagle. The feathers were unevenly struck, like the die had been overused, or worse, misplaced, a Frankenstein of minting anomalies. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these odd coins surfaced in 2019 in a coffee can full of spare change from an estate sale in rural Pennsylvania. The man who found it wasn't even a collector, he was just helping clean out his grandfather's garage. He almost dropped the coin in a Coinstar machine, but something about the odd shimmer caught his eye. He thought it was fake. So he posted a photo online. Within hours, his inbox exploded. Dealers were begging to see it. Auction houses were offering private evaluations, because it wasn't just rare. It was unique. A perfect storm of minting mistakes, all captured in a single quarter, and then came the auction. Bidding opened at $10,000. It jumped to $100,000 in under 2 minutes. By the end of the night, the final hammer dropped at $1.2 million. Gasps erupted in the room. The man who found it stood frozen. He said later, it was like watching a scratch-off ticket go from a quarter to $1 million. But here's the real shocker. There are rumors that more exist. Collectors believe as many as 10 to 15 similar 1998 P quarters were minted before the die was pulled, which means there could be millions of 1,998 quarters out there, and just a handful are worth a fortune. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. You have to know what to look for. First, check for the P mint mark. It should be slightly off-center, leaning toward the rim, not wildly off, but just enough to make you question its placement. Look at Washington's face, under light. Does it look like there's a faint double image around his jawline or ponytail? That's a red flag, but a good one. Third, the eagle. Examine the feathers. On the ultra-rare versions, they appear soft, as if partially melted or weakly struck. And here's the most overlooked clue, the edge of the coin. Most quarters have a consistent reeded edge. Some exhibit a slight warping or rim error, as if the metal shifted just slightly during the strike. It's subtle, but it's real. That's what separates pocket change from a $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked when the 2019 coin sold, but insiders knew the U.S. Mint doesn't publicize every error. Some slip through the cracks, some are hushed, because once a coin like this makes headlines, the hunt begins. And dealers are scouring estate sales. Coin hunters are revisiting old rolls. eBay is crawling with 1998 P listings, but here's the twist, most of them are worthless, just regular quarters, because the valuable one, the one that changes lives, has to meet a perfect combination of defects: misplaced mint mark, adverse doubling, soft eagle strike, possible rim distortion. Get all of those in one coin, and you've just struck numismatic gold. I've searched over 30,000 quarters since 2019, and still haven't found one. But I'm not giving up. They remind us that treasure isn't always buried. Sometimes, it's hiding in plain sight right in your spare change, and if one man can turn a forgotten coffee can into $1 million payday, so can you. So tonight, before you toss the change on the dresser, pick up that 1998p quarter, hold it to the light, tilt it, inspect the edges, because this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine sorting through pocket change, and one dull, ordinary Washington quarter jumps out, then $1.3 million across your kitchen table. Every line of the story that follows feels like a once-in-a-lifetime treasure secret being revealed. It begins with a whisper among numismatic experts, a 1966 Washington quarter dollar, no mint mark, one of only 5 known to be struck on a silver planchet by mistake. Collectors were shocked, because in 1966, the U.S. Mint had stopped using silver entirely. Yet this coin slipped through, invisible in day-to-day change, destined to remain unknown until a sharp-eyed collector took a second look. One random collector discovered it at a coin show. He'd brought a bag of common quarters to trade. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. When he casually flipped through rolls, one coin caught the light, a slightly brighter sheen, a subtle echo of a silver strike. Heart pounding, he waited and realized it tipped the scale heavier than a clad quarter. That tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word leaked out. Within days, social media lit up. Auction houses began furiously verifying provenance. Experts scrambled to authenticate what seemed impossible. One went so far as to X-ray the die surfaces, confirming that die wear and metallic composition matched the specifications of a silver quarter, not the copper-nickel clad. As bids skyrocketed, one auction ended with a jaw-dropping $1,275,000 sale. The auctioneer's gavel dropped and the room gasped. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned. This quiet, unassuming quarter from 1966 had become legend, but the story doesn't end there. Investigators traced the die batch and found a shipment error. A small supply of old silver planchets left over from the early 1960s passed through quality control, and 5 pieces slipped into production. 4 remain in institutional collections, 1 remains unaccounted for, lost, perhaps still hiding in someone's jar of mixed coins. This exact quarter, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. First, look for weight. A genuine silver 1966 quarter will weigh 6.25 grams, compared to 5.67 grams for clad. That difference is subtle in hand, but a digital pocket scale reveals the truth. But weight alone won't convict, because some errors weigh slightly off. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Next, check the edges. Silver-struck quarters have a sharp, crisp reeded edge. The clads produced in 1966 are slightly rounded by the minting process. If you run your fingernail along it and feel a noticeable crispness, that's an immediate red flag in a good way. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, then inspect the strike and surface. Silver planchets respond to pressure differently. Look for faint striations in the fields near Washington's mantle and hair. These fine radial lines scatter light in a way clad surfaces don't replicate. Collectors were shocked when a photo of the striped halo circulated online, but don't stop there. At 4 o'clock on the obverse, by Washington's neck, there should be a faint hairline notch, a tiny die chip unique to the silver planchet batch. That notch is the fingerprint. If missing, it's likely not the rare coin. One tiny notch, that one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and tools matter. A simple loop won't suffice. You'll need at least 10 times magnification, angled under broad daylight or daylight-balanced LED lighting. Try specular lighting, a sharp beam at low angle across the surface. The silver coin sparkles differently than clad. The look is subtle, but unforgettable once you've seen it, but what happens next will blow your mind. Only 5 of these coins ever appeared in private collections, and each one sparked bidding wars. The last known one sold for $1.3 million. Dealers compare notes on provenance, and buyers vet every submission of a silver-like 1966 quarter under microscopes and X-ray fluorescence machines. The standards are unrivaled. This coin is now emblematic of everything coin collectors dream of: humility hiding in plain sight and fortune waiting in a pocket. Still doubt it could happen to you? A man in his 60s recently checked through leftover change. He pulled out a 1966 Washington quarter with no mint mark. At first glance, it looked ordinary. But he noticed something: weight, edge crispness, the faint radial striations. He sent a photo to grading services. They confirmed silver. Within months, that same coin fetched $1.2 million at auction. That tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Collectors around the country now examine rolls, pay vending machines exact change, and empty their car ashtrays on kitchen tables, hoping for the same miracle. The buzz on collector forums is electric. Social media videos show people comparing weight, edge, luster, disbelief plain on their faces. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Through this voiceover, I'll remind you, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Because you can't afford to lose focus, you never know when that $1 million moment could happen. Now pause. Imagine checking that jar of coins in your drawer right now. One coin glints differently. Your heart races as you weigh it. You inspect the edge. You see the halo striations. You spot that tiny die chip at the neck. You hold a real silver 1966 Washington quarter, a piece so rare it's priceless. Collectors were shocked. Dealers would circle like vultures if word leaked. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Here's the final teaching moment: how to tell with total confidence. Step 1: digital scale to confirm 6.25 G. Step 2: loop or microscope, inspect edge crispness. Step 3: specular lighting to reveal field striations. Step 4: look for the 4 o'clock die chip near Washington's neck. And Step 5: send images to top-tier grading services, PCGS or NGC. They'll verify metallic composition and die markers. Common mistakes: thinking a clean coin, or one with surface modifications, is silver. Or trusting weight alone without edge crispness or die chip validation. When you've done all that, if weight, edge, luster, striations and die chip align, you may be holding what only 5 people in the world have ever owned. This exact penny, quarter, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Keep your eyes open. Check your change. That extraordinary discovery might just be waiting, hidden, silent, unstoppable, until your moment arrives. This exact penny, that is, this exact quarter, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. And here's the part that really stuns collectors: most people walk past this coin every day and never look twice. It's the 1998 D Washington quarter, minted in Denver. Circulated like any other, but one in this batch changed someone's life forever. It all started with a man in Colorado, retired, quiet life, loved metal detecting. One morning, he stopped by a small-town gas station, paid with a 20, got some quarters and change. He almost shoved them in his car's cup holder, but something, call it luck, fate, or instinct, made him pause. One coin had an odd luster. He turned it under the light, and what he saw was a mistake that should have never made it out of the mint. At first, he thought it was just worn, maybe a factory error. Maybe nothing, but his gut told him otherwise. That quarter would go on to shock the numismatic world and sell for over $1 million at auction. Well, this is where the mystery deepens. The Denver Mint struck over 821 million Washington quarters in 1998. It was supposed to be a standard issue, nothing rare, nothing valuable, but in a tiny handful, less than a dozen ever confirmed, an astonishing error took place. Instead of being struck on a regular copper nickel-clad planchet, this quarter was minted on a foreign silver planchet, likely intended for a different coin entirely. A mistake like that doesn't just slip by. It's a breach in protocol. A failure of quality control, and yet, somehow, it happened. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once news of the error broke, collectors swarmed the story, forums lit up. Dealers started scanning every 1998 D they could find, because here's the twist: this wasn't just a mint error, it was a once-in-a-generation jackpot. You see, the planchet it was struck on wasn't just silver, it was thinner, slightly underweight, and the reading on the edge, off-center, misaligned. To the untrained eye, it might just look worn. A few scratches, maybe slightly discolored, but to a sharp-eyed collector, it was $1 million miracle hiding in plain sight. Experts at PCGS and NGC were stunned when the coin came in and they double-checked the weight, 5.9 grams, not 5.67. They examined the edge, the fields, the strike depth, everything confirmed the truth. This was no ordinary quarter. It was a mistruck silver planchet hybrid, and the Denver Mint had no record of how it got out. The auction was intense, private collectors battled dealers. Whispers of foreign mint planchet contamination ran wild. By the time the final bid slammed down, the room went silent. $1.4 million for a quarter, and here's the real kicker: no one knows how many more are still out there. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and if you think this was just a fluke, think again. A second one surfaced in Arizona, then a third in Kansas, each one slightly different, each with a story wrapped in mystery, and each sending ripples through the coin world. Collectors were shocked. Was this a rogue batch, a mint employee gone rogue? Or a long-forgotten experimental strike, theories flooded in, but the truth is, we may never know. Still, the hunt continues. Dealers are rushing to grab every 1998 D quarter they can find, because here's the chilling part: most of these rare errors get spent, used for parking meters, gum, toll booths, vanishing forever into circulation. But there's something even crazier. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. A regular 1998 D quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. If yours is even slightly under or over, break out the magnifier. Most quarters have clear, evenly spaced reading, but on the $1 million version, the reading is faint, off-center, or completely missing in places, and under magnification. The metal itself looks off. The sheen isn't nickel bright, it has a muted, almost frosted silver glow. Some even show doubling in the motto or the date, further proof of an imperfect strike. Don't clean the coin. Don't rub it with a cloth or polish it. That alone can destroy thousands in value instantly, and don't assume a D mint mark makes it rarer. There are over 800 million out there, but the planchet error is what changes everything. Some collectors spend years looking and never find one. Others, they find it by accident. In a car wash tray, in a tip jar, in a sidewalk coin spill. But when they do, it doesn't just change their collection, it changes their life. One man told the story of buying a soda at a laundromat. He got a 1998 D and change, thought nothing of it, but something about the sound it made hitting his palm caught his ear. It rang different. He weighted on a cheap kitchen scale, off by a few tenths of a gram. He submitted it, just in case. 3 months later, he was holding a check for over $700,000, but that coin sold privately before it ever hit auction. A private collector didn't want to risk losing it. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. So the next time you hold a 1998 D quarter in your hand, don't dismiss it. Don't spend it, inspect it, weigh it, study it like your future depends on it, because for one lucky collector, it already did, and lightning might just strike again. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it sold for nearly $1.5 million. It was just another day in Ohio. A retired mechanic named Harold was rolling up some old change from a dusty jar in his garage. Quarters, nickels, dimes, nothing special. Or so he thought. One quarter stood out. The color was different. Slightly dull. The edge looked thicker. And strangely, there was no mint mark. Harold almost tossed it aside, thinking it was damaged, but that tiny missing letter, or rather, the absence of it, would soon send shockwaves through the entire numismatic world, because this wasn't just any 1978 Washington quarter, this was one of the rarest and most mysterious error coins ever discovered. And it's now worth up to $1.50 million. But how could a coin minted in the millions, in a year that wasn't even considered rare, become so staggeringly valuable? Well, that's where the mystery begins. The United States Mint struck hundreds of millions of quarters in 1978. Most came out of Denver and Philadelphia. But something strange happened that year. A few coins, possibly less than a dozen, somehow left the mint, missing the mint mark entirely. And now, missing mint marks weren't totally unheard of. They usually happened because of a worn-down die or a clogged stamping mechanism. But this coin didn't just have a missing mint mark. It had multiple signs of being struck with the wrong die entirely. The hair curls on Washington's portrait appeared more defined, closer to earlier designs from the 1960s. The rim was slightly raised, a feature that hinted it may have been struck on a leftover silver planchet, even though silver quarters were discontinued in 1964. Could this have been a rogue test strike? A mint employee's mistake? Or something more intentional, more secret? Yet collectors were shocked when the first of these quarters surfaced at a small estate auction in Pennsylvania. No one knew what they were looking at until a sharp-eyed bidder realized the bizarre alignment, the missing mint mark, and the unusual luster meant one thing: this coin didn't belong. It shouldn't exist, and yet, it was very, very real. That quarter sold for over $300,000. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A private collector from California. He sent it to PCGS for authentication, and after weeks of testing, metallurgical analysis, and expert review, the results were staggering. This was a transitional error. A coin caught in the shifting gears of U.S. minting history, struck using the wrong die, missing the mint mark, and likely created on a leftover silver planchet 14 years after silver was supposedly phased out. A mistake that shouldn't have happened, but did. How many more of these phantom quarters were out there, and more importantly, could they be hiding in plain sight? One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it lit a fire across the country. Pawn shops saw a surge of old quarters being brought in, coin forums lit up with heated debates and blurry photos. Dealers began offering 5 figures for even unverified examples, because if you find the real one, It could be worth up to $1.50 million. What separates this ultra-rare quarter from the millions of fakes, damaged coins, and ordinary 1978 pieces? The details are everything, and most people miss them. Look closely at the edge. The authentic $1,000,000 specimen has a slightly higher rim than usual, the result of an incompatible planchet. Now flip it under the light. The luster isn't normal. It's softer. Almost like brushed silver, not chrome-like, not glossy. Think old silver spoon. That's your clue. Examine Washington's hair. Yes, the hair. The detail is unusually sharp, particularly on the curls near his neck. Why? Because it wasn't struck using a 1978 die. This was a throwback, likely a leftover die from years earlier, never meant to be used, and here's the biggest giveaway: no mint mark, nothing. Not a D. Not a P. Not even a ghostly smudge. Just a smooth, flat space where there should be a letter. Philadelphia coins from that era typically had no mint mark, but this is different. This isn't just a Philly coin. This is an error coin. It breaks several minting rules at once. It's like finding a ghost in a machine. A whisper from the past, frozen in metal, but the story doesn't end there. In 2023, a second example surfaced. This time from a flea market in Arizona. An elderly couple was selling off their old coin collection, unaware of the treasure hidden among them. A young collector, just 19 years old, spotted the strange edge and lack of mint mark. He paid $3. The coin was authenticated within days. Its value? Estimated between $900,000 and $1.20 million. Two known examples, possibly more out there, but every one of them, $1 million mystery. These coins don't look special to the untrained eye, they blend in like ordinary quarters. That's the real danger and the real thrill, because every time you open your change, every quarter you drop into a parking meter, you might be holding one of the rarest coins in American history. Start with every 1978 quarter you can get your hands on. Check the right side of the coin below. In God we trust. That's where the mint mark should be. Completely missing, not faded. That's your first red flag. Then, feel the rim. Is it slightly raised compared to other quarters? That could indicate a wrong planchet. And next, study the shine. If it doesn't reflect light like typical copper nickel quarters. If it looks duller, like aged silver, don't ignore it. And finally, check for crisp hair detail on Washington's portrait. The better the strike, the more likely it's from a reused die. Collectors who know what to look for, they're already searching, and dealers are offering fortunes, sometimes even sight unseen, for high-resolution photos of these strange no-mint mark quarters. But be careful, there are fakes out there. Some people scratch off mint marks. Others plate quarters to mimic the silver look. That's why authentication is key. If you think you found one, don't clean it, don't alter it, and don't waste time. Get it into the hands of PCGS or NGC immediately, because if it's real, it could change your life forever. These coins weren't supposed to exist, they slipped through history like ghosts in the minting machine. They're not just coins. They're accidents of fate, whispers of the past, disguised as pocket change, and right now, one could be sitting in your drawer waiting, hidden in plain sight. This exact quarter, missing its mint mark, struck in error, and wrapped in mystery, could be worth over $1 million. So check your change, search every roll, because this once-in-a-lifetime treasure might already be in your hands.